Hey, what's up, guys? So I've been getting a lot of questions in regards to tight hips, tight lower back. Some people are having some lateral knee pain as well when they're running and just in general exercise. And so I figured this would be a good opportunity to share a couple of interventions that I found very, very effective, not only for me personally, but also for a lot of our clients. And all it takes is actually one of these exercise balls. So if you have something like this at home, this is a lot, usually people use it for stability exercises, core exercises, but one of the things that it's actually really good for is to strengthen your adductors. And so your adductors are going to be all of the muscles on the inner thigh, if you will, as well as your pelvic bottom. And so what we actually encourage, this is not super Instagram sexy or, it's not as cool looking as some of the other workouts that are out there, but this really does a great job of stimulating, activating, and reinforcing that connection to your deep front line, which is, from an anatomy training standpoint, it is basically the most core, central part of our, where we develop our posture and biomechanics. And so for most of modern humans, what I've noticed, especially when we do muscle testing through NKT, is that people show up pretty weak when it comes into the adductor muscles. And so simple. All you have to do is have a seat. You can do this standing too, so I'll show you a couple variations. But you're going to take this ball, you're going to actually press it as close to your pelvic bottom as you can. And then you're going to try to bring your knees around the side. What I like to actually do is place the hands on the outside to give a little bit of additional feedback. And it's not that you're pushing with the hands, but it's just going to give you a little bit of guidance. And from here, all you're going to do is take an inhale, and you're going to squeeze that ball. And you want to really feel, usually for people when they're first jumping into this, it's going to feel really, really shaky. And that right off the rip is a good sign that there's probably not a strong connection to these muscles and these circuits. And so it's really good to just focus on reps. And a lot of times people say, like, how many sets, how many reps? You could start off with like 3 sets of 10 reps. What I actually like to prescribe at the gym here is we do 5 sets of 10 reps a piece. And so we get up to, 5 sets of 10 reps, so we get up to 50 reps total. And really, we're not focusing so much on the reps, we're really focusing on the quality of the signal that we're generating. And so we want to get a good activation. And what you'll notice is just pay close attention to how shaky it is or how weak it feels initially. And that is actually a great story that's being told right there. If it's shaky and if it's feeling weak, that means that you're not getting much support through that medial line, that internal, deep front line. And what that also means is you're going to make up that deficit usually through your lateral lines. And so this is why a lot of times people get really tight in the hips, lower back. This is also why the lateral knee portion gets really overloaded, especially for running and jumping. And so this is a great way. What I always recommend here is try to get this strong. Try to get this stronger than any other part of your chain and just watch what happens. Your squats are going to get better. Your running is going to feel a lot more buttery. You're going to feel like you actually have lateral range of motion. Because again, once you have that stability through that midline, your body is going to sense that stability. It's going to start to let go of some of that chronic tightness and tension to try to generate that artificial stability. And so again, just inhale and squeeze that ball. You're strengthening the adductors through this motion. Now you can also do a standing variation on this. So place the ball directly under your pelvic bottom. And I know a lot of times people use these physio bands or hip halos to work on the glutes and activate those glutes on the outside. I would say this is actually a great adjunct to that. And so you also want to stimulate the inside. So instead of sidestepping for the purpose of stretching the band laterally and strengthening your glutes, you're actually sidestepping to strengthen those adductors. And so you can kind of see this action here. And for laymen, what I usually say is, each leg is actually an additional 4 legs. And the way to look at this is that, for me personally, I suffered from chronic lower back pain, leg pain, knee pain, every type of joint pain you can imagine. And a lot of those imbalances and deficiencies came from the front leg and the outside leg being way too strong, and the back leg and the inner leg being too weak. And so this is kind of what I mean for layman's purposes. We won't go into complicated muscle names or anything, but just simplify. We think we have 2 legs, but within each leg system, there's actually an additional 4 groups of fascial planes or muscle groups.
And for most of our modern people, we're too strong on the quadriceps. This is what oftentimes creates shortness in the quads, pulling the hips forward, which is going to arch that lower back. Makes it nearly impossible, actually, to activate your anterior core. And then your lower back is just really just online all the time. So hence the tight lower back action. And then the lateral tightness is going to also limit a lot of this lateral motion. And so, you know, the front leg and the side leg are too strong. And we found in general, and this is kind of 80-20 rule, is that the inside and the hamstring is very, very weak. And so spending additional time in your training to isolate those pieces is going to go a very, very long way. And so you've got this one, again, where you're squeezing the ball together to really start sending that signal. The first thing is you got to find the connection first. And so that's kind of the goal at first, is to just feel those muscles activating on the inner thigh. You'll feel that run all the way from the medial portion of the knee all the way up to the pelvic bottom. You could even squeeze your pelvic bottom a little bit, clench those cheeks, and get deep under the pelvic bottom there. And then another variation that I actually really like to do to start to stimulate different fibers is you're going to place this ball underneath. You're actually going to step, and as you're stepping, you're going to keep the compression on the ball. And now what that does is it really starts to create this like crescent pattern of stimulating the inside, the inner thighs, but also the inner hamstring as it gets to the back portion, as well as some of the front there in the corner. And so I don't know if you can see that, but this kind of stuff, again, looks silly, but it really does a great job of priming your neuro circuits and turning those muscles on. And what I recommend before jumping into stuff like this is just kind of test your general range of motion. We've had people, again, that have really tight hips on the outside. They don't have much range for lateral bending. After they do just some of these, literally no stretching, just activations. Just bringing that online, and like magic, lower back relaxes, you get way more range laterally, everything just kind of sets in. And so this is a great entry into the topic of pain and chronic tightness. And so, you know, a lot of times people think pain is an input, meaning that, and this is the old model of pain, this is what they used to teach way back when, is that you put your hand on a fire, send the pain signal up your nervous system, you know, you pull away, right? It's actually the opposite. Pain is an output. And so your nervous system, pain is very complex too. And in our modern culture, we have this like negative, pain has a negative connotation, like people try to avoid it at all costs. People get pretty emotional around pain as well, which is understandable because it's frightening, it's scary, it doesn't feel good. But I would invite people to have a different relationship with pain, because pain is actually your friend. Pain is looking out for you, it's just information. It's trying to bring your attention to something that needs rebalancing. And so the idea is that pain is an output, so your nervous system is constantly scanning your environment, internal, external, to figure out, am I in danger, is this gonna kill me? And you know, if it senses danger, then it will actually output pain to that area to, you know, prevent us from hurting ourselves or you know, killing ourselves. And so, so that's the idea with pain. And a general rule of thumb as well is that usually pain occurs, I would say like I used to say 9 out of 10 times, but it's getting closer and closer to 10 out of 10 times. The area that hurts, if you look at your body as like an electric biocircuit board, those are the areas where there's too much voltage, there's too much electrical charge going to those circuits. And that's overloading it, and it's causing it to basically get fried and report, you know, symptoms of inflammation, pain, discomfort. And so really, you know, when we think about that, the areas that are hurting, the areas that are chronically inflamed, those are the areas that are generally overworking. They're working overtime. Those circuits are getting overloaded. And what we are called to do when we feel those pains and discomforts, this is unfortunate that they don't teach this stuff in school, is that we want to look at our biocircuit board. We want to start asking questions like, why is that circuit getting overloaded? Like, why is my knee overworking? What's not working that's causing my biocircuitry to compensate and overutilize, you know, my lower back or my knee or my hips, right? And if we can find the answer to that question, and usually, for simplicity's sake, I just say look to the opposite side. So if you're having lateral knee pain or outside knee pain,
then there's probably something going on the inside, the medial side, that's just not doing its job. And the craziest thing is, for over a decade, as soon as you start opening up the pathways and start charging up those, neglected circuits, as soon as we start sending some voltage, start activating, start creating that mind-muscle connection, magically, your body is so intelligent, it will just start to reduce that pain. Remember, pain is an output. And so as soon as your nervous system feels safety and support through other channels that were not working before, as soon as that gets online, it's instantaneous. Like your CNS is constantly, it knows everything about your body. And so you can't BS it, right? The best way that you can work with your nervous system is to start to investigate and really listen to those pain signals and try to reverse engineer and figure out what's going on. And so again, this is a very underutilized, not a super sexy move. It's kind of boring too sometimes, I think, for people. I love it. I love seeing how hard I can squeeze this ball. And I remember when I first started this work, or before I started this work, I should say, I was always getting lateral knee pain, especially on this right knee. And so this was one of the fixes that I did prior to running. So what I would do is I would sit just like this in this position, and I would just rep it out and just get a solid activation, just make sure that my circuits are online for my medial or deep front line, and get that going. Now this can surprisingly have benefits across a lot of different presenting symptoms for people. Sometimes you might have some issues with like plantar fasciitis, right? Sometimes you might have lateral knee pain, sometimes you might have lower back pain or hip pain or sciatica. You might be surprised. And so, again, I just like to lay out some first principles as it pertains, because once you understand these universal principles, you can actually create an unlimited amount of techniques for any, specific type of pain scenario. And so, as a general of thumb, it doesn't matter what type of pain you're experiencing. There are certain muscle groups that I've found just due to modern living, where most people, like again, 80-20 rule, right? 80% of the people, it's definitely behind the fold in terms of being strong, like comparatively, and things are relative, right? And so, what I would recommend is investigate those muscles that are very, very weak. We'll just go over them very briefly. And so we covered this for one of the videos on my YouTube, but the tibialis anterior tends to be very weak for people. Calves are generally facilitated or too strong. And so what you'll see is a pattern here. So from here, the front of the shin tends to be weak, the calf tends to be too strong, and then it flips, it inverts. And so now it's, the tibialis is weak, flips to the backside, the hamstring and the glutes are weak. Quadriceps, hip flexors are too strong. And it makes sense because we're always flexed at the hip, right? And we're very quad dominant. And so this is why hinging type of workouts are really good. It starts to open up the pathway to strengthen that posterior chain for the hamstring and the glutes. And then you take that pattern up. Remember it was weak on the glutes and hammies? It's going to invert again. It's going to actually hit the front. So the anterior core tends to be pretty weak. And it's all based off of the previous chain, if you will. And so again, if the quadriceps are too tight, we kind of talked about this a little bit, it's going to pull that pelvis forward. And what it's going to do is it's going to arch that lower back. And what is the arching of the back but shortening of those muscles in the back to create the arch? And if the back muscles are shortening, then guess what's happening in the front? It's lengthening. So this tends to be in a constant lengthened position, again, disconnected in the anterior core. We won't go into the depth of like gut biome stuff and like inflammatory inputs with like diet and food, but that can also wreak havoc in terms of your ability to find your anterior core muscles. I feel that all the time, like if I'm running, if I didn't eat proper before a run, like I'll definitely feel like my core is not engaged as much, and I feel my back and my knees a little bit more. That's a story for another day. And then you invert the pattern again, so the weakness from here in the front is going to go ahead and get into the back. And so you'll notice like the rhomboids tend to be in a lengthened position. So weak on the upper back, upper mid T-spine, strong in the front here, so it's rolling the shoulders forward, everything short in the front. This is a very common pattern. Arms are always in front of us, internally rotated, right? And so we want to find opposing positions here. So we want to really open up the chest, externally rotate the arms, and then that pattern flips one more time. And people don't really pay attention to the neck, but the neck, the C-spine is almost like a little mini avatar of your L-spine. And so a lot of times people have a ton of facilitation and tightness in the back of the neck muscles. And then in the front of the neck, the abs of the neck, if you will, completely disconnected. And what that does is it kind of creates this like head up posture, head forward and up, right? So just all relaxing here. It's similar to this like arching of the lower back. And so to fix that, you want to just systematically go, and I recommend start from the foundation up because you can work on all the stuff upstairs, but if downstairs is, it's going to reflect back and it's like you're trying to swim upstream. And so a good place to start is I always recommend start with your feet, your ankles, your lower legs, and then from there you could balance everything out as we just went through. And if you need a review, just rewind and check it out. And so we'll go a little bit more deep into these individual segments. But I just wanted to jump in here, and this is a shout out to Alec Gracie, because he was we were just texting back and forth a little bit here, and he's been having some hip stuff and whatnot, and so I figured I'd make a quick video, and then I'll go and link it out, and figured maybe other people can use this information as well. So there you have it, the coolest workout in the world, totally underutilized. Squeezing the ball between the thighs, get this super strong. Remember all those weak muscles we talked about? Like strengthen those, really emphasize that, strengthen those muscles. Take a little bit of time off, maybe your regular programming, and focus on the deficiencies and just watch what happens. Your CNS is going to immediately feel the difference, and you're going to have a full system. Most people are walking about, working out, training, living their lives, but half the circuits are off. And so that means the half the circuits being off, like the other half is being overloaded. And so this is a really important facet to just making sure that your biomechanics, your efficiencies, and life just feels a lot better. We won't even get into the emotional side of things as, what does it do to our levels of anxiety and mood and energy levels when we're, walking around with half of our circuits overloaded. It ain't pretty. And so this is also a great way to address a lot of, mental ailments as well as energy ailments. So there you have it. Hope you got something out of this. If you are looking for more information, feel free to drop it in the comments and I'll try to get to it and we'll create a video around it. All right, cool. Don't forget to burn brighter. Catch you later.